Defund NPR, defund NPR, defund NPR. That's right. Good morning, 7:05. Glad you are starting off the morning with us on KCMO. How'd I do there on that chant?
That was all right. I was thinking of NPR, TIAQ plus, something like that. Put some more initials in there.
I think I would need my COVID mask to properly do a chant on the plaza, too, or something like that with a big dumb sign in my hands. But you know what? For now, it'll do.
Great YouTube videos of people who just blend in with the crowd and start nattering away at the person next to them. Oh, it's funny stuff.
NPR is suing the Trump White House, along with 3 Colorado public radio stations who filed suit yesterday in federal court over Trump's executive order that, of course, bars the use of congressionally appropriated funds for NPR and PBS. So this broke like late in the show yesterday, but then we got more details on this lawsuit as the day went along. And this is such a pathetic excuse for trying to use the free speech angle in your favor. The lawsuit says the administration is basically abusing its power to direct how federal money will be spent and to pass laws. It names Trump, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, and others as the defendants. A team that includes noted free speech lawyer Theodore J. Boutros filed the lawsuit for NPR and the Colorado stations jointly in the District of Columbia. They called Trump's early May executive order textbook retaliation and an existential threat to the public radio system that millions of Americans across the country rely on for vital news and information. Okay, now I just gotta laugh.
And coffee mugs and tote bags.
Yeah, and pins and keychains.
And videos of the Moody Blues at Red Rocks.
Yeah, and a bunch of other crap nobody ever asked for. That's what NPR does. It is not the only place for vital news and information. Okay? You can get that here every single day on KCMO. It's why we're kicking their butts, because you actually trust us much more for the news and the information and actually mild entertainment compared to some stiff who's just sitting there reading some script off a piece of paper who sounds like he's half in the grave. That's what NPR is. And I'm not saying it doesn't have the right to exist. It does have the right to exist. I mean, it's a total sham that they call themselves news. It's a completely biased operation, which I'm also okay with. I'm fine with bias. But you don't get to have federal dollars fund your bias when the bias is against half the country. Like, that's not what taxpayer dollars should be getting used for. I wouldn't ask for taxpayer dollars to fund KCMO. All we simply do is say, hey, support our great local and national sponsors here. That keeps us going. That keeps us growing. That's it. That's the name of the game. That's all we ask of you. But this is from NPR President and CEO Catherine Maher. She said in a statement yesterday, the executive order is a clear violation of the Constitution and the First Amendment's protections for freedom of speech and association and freedom of the press. You guys don't know. This is not about freedom of the press. The press is as free in America as it's ever been. This is simply about you not getting to tap in to the government coffers to fund your agenda. That is not a free speech issue. It reminds me, yesterday we were telling you about this student at KU who is suing the university because he talked to National Panhandler Radio here, KCUR, about some changes that KU is making to one of its residence halls that basically said if you were transgender or non-binary or whatever, you had to move to a different hall. They were shifting around where these individuals could stay, what halls they could be in. And this guy who was a resident assistant at KU, he went off on the university and they fired him as a resident assistant, as an RA. And they said, dude, you violated your employment agreement. You can't go talking to the media trashing your boss. So he's suing KU, and part of the reason he's suing KU is because he claims they've infringed upon his free speech. Okay, free speech does not give you the right to trash your employer without your employer being allowed to fire you. I can't come on the air and trash my employer and then say, well, I got free speech. Yeah, I have free speech rights, and they have free speech to basically then fire me. NPR has all the free speech that it wants to have. The idea that they are somehow playing the victim here in getting defunded by this administration is not about free speech. It's about what is the government's role in funding any kind of media enterprise in this country. And the answer is, it's been decades since we should have stopped funding PBS and NPR, but nobody had the cojones to do it. Finally, we got a guy who does. And they're acting like this is some kind of free speech violation. It is anything but that. And this is frankly more about NPR than it is PBS. I think PBS will be fine. PBS could raise all the money that it needs to in a heartbeat, because a lot of what they do is obviously apolitical with the documentaries and things of that nature. NPR, I mean, if that thing just exploded tomorrow, nobody would bat an eye. And really, nobody would miss them either. PBS is its own animal. They do a pretty good job on some things. And you know what? They'll get the funding that they need. Kansas City PBS does a nice job. But the NPR nonsense, I mean, that thing is just absolute hot garbage. But they're trying hard to portray themselves as the victims here. So this case has been assigned to U.S. District Court Judge Randolph D. Moss. Do all judges put their middle initial in their names? Is that like a prerequisite to being a
Randy
judge?
Moss?
Yeah. He's picked a new career, apparently. So Randolph D. Moss, who is also handling a case involving a related lawsuit filed by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, CBP, or CPB, against the President of the United States. So conveniently, they always file these lawsuits in oftentimes deep blue districts where they can find judges who will be like-minded to what they're trying to achieve. Whether or not it works remains to be seen. But it's also why Congress has to continue to do and hold up its end of the bargain. This stuff can't all be done through executive orders. You've got to have Congress step up. And this would be, I would imagine, universally supported by many Republicans in the Senate and the House. Frankly, I don't know which Senate member or House member would be against the idea of defunding NPR and PBS. I mean, if they're out there, please, I would like them to stand up and try to explain why they would be against this kind of defunding. This should pass in a heartbeat. So there are things that I understand why Trump wants to do a lot of this stuff on executive order, but there are some things that should just be no-brainers through Congress that have to be part of whether it's the big, beautiful bill or future bills, and take it out of the court's hands. Because they're filing these cases with and in districts that are going to be friendly to their causes, and that just ends up kicking the can down the road, and it becomes much more of a headache for the administration as they're trying to juggle all these balls at the same time. And we don't need any more of that. Leave the juggling of balls to NPR. They seem to do that pretty well. 913-408-7957, 713 on a Tuesday. No, it's a Wednesday. It feels like a Tuesday, but it's a Wednesday on KCMO. I only made that mistake once so far this week. I didn't call yesterday, Monday, but I did just call today, Tuesday. Cody Johnson tickets. He's playing at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena down in the Ozarks. We've got those coming up at 8:45 this morning, 90 minutes away. He puts on a great show, and we will be giving those away all week long here on KCMO Talk Radio at 8:45. Do not miss that. Cindy O'Loughlin is coming up at the bottom of the hour. She is the Senate president in Missouri as they get set for a special session that is going to be happening on Monday as they try to get state funding for the Chiefs and the Royals through the legislature in Jeff City during this special session. She will give us the insight on how exactly this could play out in the Missouri State Senate coming up in 15 minutes on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM and streaming as always on the KCMO Talk Radio app.